Ever woken up to something sewing your mouth shut? I have. Let's just say it's every bit as fucked up as you can imagine. Call me Lockjaw. Turns out, getting stitched up by a nightmare in a Detroit basement qualifies you for some pretty exclusive job opportunities. Who knew? And I use the word job in the loosest sense possible. What I mean to say is that it's a real nasty, weird as fuck, get paid in stacks of cash and whiskey kind of job. I catch and sometimes kill things that shouldn't exist. Urban legends, monsters, all-around nightmares that your drunk uncle used to ramble about before passing out in his recliner. And tonight I'm standing in front of a 30-story abandoned apartment building with a cigarette in one hand, a sawed-off shotgun in the other, and a bad fucking feeling in my gut. The job? Capture something called the Latchling. Never heard of it? Yeah, neither had I. Until some rich asshole in a suit told me it was snatching squatters off the top floors, leaving only their shoes behind. Just the shoes. No bodies. No blood. Like they got vacuum sucked into hell itself. I should have said no. But the payday was fat, and I had bills. So here I am. I step inside, and the whole place smells like piss and cheap vodka. You know, the usual Chicago abandoned building aroma. My boots crunch over glass, bones, and something that looks suspiciously like a human tooth. A long tooth. On second thought, maybe it's not a human's. Yeah, this is gonna suck, I mutter, flicking my cigarette to the floor. I make my way up, shotgun loaded, flashlight bouncing off graffiti-covered walls. The elevator's busted, obviously, so I take the stairs 2 at a time. Every floor looks worse than the last. Graffiti turns to claw marks, empty beer bottles turn to gnawed-on bones, and the air gets thick. Wrong. Like something's watching me. By the time I hit the 6th floor, I hear it. A scraping. Click, 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 like a giant fucking bug dragging its legs across the ceiling. I whip my flashlight up. Nothing. Just peeling paint and a water-stained ceiling. But the sound's getting closer. Then I see the first body, or what's left of it. It's half stuck in the drywall like someone melted it in there. The face is twisted, mouth open wide like it died mid-scream. I exhale. Well, that's just fucking peachy. Then from the end of the hallway I hear it. Click, 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 click. I spin just as it lunges from the shadows. Tall and spider-thin but human-shaped, its arms too long with too many joints. Fingers like rusted hooks, each one clicking as they flex. And its face? Just a smooth slab of skin, except for its mouth. And all its fucking teeth, because they always have fucking teeth. Which I often collect when I get the chance. It moves fast. I barely get a shot off before it's on me. Boom. Shotgun blast rips through its shoulder. It screams. A high, warbling shriek like a dozen voices screaming over each other. My ears ring as I stagger back, reloading. I grunt, spitting blood. It lunges. I dodge, but its claws rip into my jacket, slicing deep enough that I feel the burn of fresh air on my ribs. I slam my boot into its chest, sending it skidding back. It skitters up the wall sideways like a creepy-ass cockroach. I reload. It grins. Motherfucker, I mutter. I hate the smart ones. That's when I hear something worse. Laughter. Not from the Latchling, from above. I glance up, but nothing is crawling across the ceiling. But something else is up there. That's when I hear the drywall crack. The whole goddamn ceiling bulges, something huge shifting inside. Oh, fuck me sideways. I was wrong about the Latchling. It's not hunting alone. It's bait for the real monster. And I'm trapped in this damn building with them. If you were me, standing in a rotting apartment complex, shotgun loaded, staring at something that should never exist, what the hell would you do? Me? I light another cigarette, grin like a madman, and say, "Well, boys, who's dying first?" The drywall above me groans. Then it explodes. I barely dive aside before something massive drops down. A writhing centipede-like mass of arms, legs, and screaming human faces, all stitched together like some Lovecraftian nightmare that fell ass backward into a blender. It lands with a wet thud, twitching, jerking. its 100 mouths whispering things I don't want to fucking understand. The latchling scurries behind it, chittering like a loyal pet. My shotgun's up before my brain catches up. Boom! I shred one of the human faces, but the thing doesn't even flinch. It just grows another one from the gaping wound, its new mouth smiling directly at me. Oh, fuck this, I mutter. And then, before I can get my next shot off, it speaks.
Lockjaw.
I freeze. The thing tilts its shifting heads, and in a raspy, whiskey-ruined tone, it chuckles out.
Do they still call you that? Lockjaw.
And just like that, I'm back in hell. Have I told you how I got my jaw wired shut? No? Well, it wasn't for some stupid bar brawl gone wrong. Nah. I got my jaw wired shut because of something I saw. Catch is, I wasn't supposed to fucking survive. It was in Detroit, years ago. Back when I was just another dumbass with a badge. Yeah, you heard that right. Before I became a freelance monster wrangler, I was a cop. A detective, actually, and a pretty good one. I was the guy who followed blood trails down dark alleys thinking it was just another junkie or some pissed-off ex. Until I followed the wrong blood trail. Until I saw something wearing a man. It had hollowed him out, slipping into his body like it was some Halloween costume. His lips moved like they were trying to form words, but his eyes were just sockets. Empty. And the thing inside him? It looked at me. Then it reached up, grabbed the skinned human face covering its own and pulled until the ripping sounds filled the air. I don't remember how I got there. 1 minute, I was following a blood trail into an alley behind an abandoned motel, thinking I was tracking some lunatic with a knife. Next, I was strapped to a filthy mattress, arms tied down. The stench of mildew and rot filled my nostrils. And there it was. The thing. It wasn't human. Not completely. Looked like someone had tried to sculpt a person out of wax, then left it too close to a fire. I couldn't see its eyes if I tried. The eyelids, or what was left of them, were hanging shreds of skin that jerked every time it moved its long fingers. And in one of those fingers, it held a needle and wire. Drip, drip, drip. I could hear something leaking onto the floor. Blood? Oil? My sanity? It whispered, threading the needle through my cheek.
Screaming ruins the flavor.
I didn't scream. I wanted to. Most people do. That's why no one else who saw this thing ever lived to talk about it. Because it feeds on terror. It drinks it like some people sip bourbon. And the moment you break, the moment you let the fear turn to terror, it eats you. Problem was, I wasn't scared. I was fucking furious. That thing had its fingers on my face, peeling my skin back, stitching my jaw shut like I was some doll it was fixing. And all I could think was, motherfucker, the second I get loose, I'm going to shove that needle straight up your asshole. So I stared at it. Even when the pain got white hot, even when my nerves screamed at me to panic, even when I felt my own blood running down my throat, choking me, I glared into those black pits for eyes, and I grinned through the wire. I didn't give it fear. I gave it rage. It hesitated, just for a second. And that's when I felt it. Something shifting in the dark, like a pressure wave rippling through the room. The thing jerked, its shredded lid swaying with the movement. Its fingers twitched. It backed away, like it was the one afraid. That was the last thing I remembered before I blacked out. I woke up 2 days later, jaw wired shut. Some poor trauma surgeon had tried their best to fix me, but you can't really undo whatever that thing did. They removed the rusted wire, and because that jerk wasn't sanitary about sewing my face, I was also treated for a massive infection. Then for good measure, the doc ended up having to put new wire in to keep things from shifting around. But the best part, while I was still half sedated, half pissed off, they showed up. Government types, suits too clean for Detroit. They showed me a folder. Pictures of other victims, bodies with metal stitching, mouths and eyes sewn shut, found curled up in abandoned places, mouths shredded all the hell.
The pain made them rip their own sewn lips apart, screaming.
One of them said. But I didn't need the explanation, it was plain to see in the photos. Next was a list of every single person who had encountered this thing before. Every single one. dead, except me.
You survived where no one else did.
Sykes, the one in charge, said, flipping the folder shut.
It should have fed on you. Instead, it ran.
I just blinked at him through my swollen eyes. I couldn't talk. He got up from the hospital chair, pointed to my face, and said,
That must hurt like hell.
As he turned to walk away, he threw out,
I'll be seeing you soon, Lockjaw.
A month and a half later, I was healed enough to remove all the metal in my mouth. My jaw's never been the same since. Clicking, locking up, phantom pain that comes and goes. It was during this time Sykes showed up again and made me an offer. Work for him, keep my mouth shut, and get paid to hunt the things no one believes in. I pretended like I had to think about it. Then just like that, Lockjaw stopped being a detective and became a fucking legend. Or at least that's what I'm going to keep saying until it sticks. My number one priority? Track the stitched man, the thing that wired my jaw shut. I hunted it for years. Never found it. Not fully. It's a slippery bastard. But every now and then, in the dark corners of the world, I hear stories. People going missing. Being found with their mouths wired shut, and each time I get closer and closer. The stitched man aside, I've caught plenty of other shit. You think these stories are fake? I wish they were. With each urban legend caught, they get stuffed in what I call blackout boxes. I don't know how it works, but once in, they stay there until someone lets them out. These go special delivery to the military, who pays me enough to drink myself stupid and do it all over again. Anyway, back to the thing in front of me, the centipede horror show of screaming faces and stolen voices. It just said my name, and it spoke like it knew me. Not like some random asshole, like someone familiar. Then I glimpse it, amount the sea of faces. One begins to melt into something I recognize. The stitched man. But in the next instant, it was gone. The latchling crouched beside it, clicking its teeth like a waiting pet. My shotgun. I wouldn't call it a showstopper, but it sure as hell slows monsters down when you blow a hole in them. I needed a plan. Fast. I scanned the room. Rusted pipes on the wall. A half-broken fire extinguisher. A gas leak from when its big ass fell through the ceiling. I can smell it. I grin through the old wire pain in my jaw. All right, ugly, I rasp, cocking the shotgun one last time. Let's see if you like fire. Then I grin. Because I already know. Nothing screams louder than a monster on fire. Boom! The first blast took half its faces off. Didn't kill it. Didn't even slow it down. Just made it angry. The massive mouths shuddered, voices overlapping, stolen screams bubbling up from the shredded flesh. The latchling beside it skittered toward me, fast, teeth clacking like a fucking applause. I dove behind a rusted water heater as the thing lashed out. Metal shrieked, sparks spat. My heart beat? Like a little jackhammer in my ribs. But I wasn't out yet. I grabbed the fire extinguisher, turned the rusted nozzle, and aimed at the gas leak. The latchling lunged. I kicked it straight in its gnashing mouth, flipping the fire extinguisher at the same time. And then I fired. Boom. The shell hit dead center. The extinguisher ruptured. And then the whole basement exploded. Waking up in a morgue. Again. There was black. Then there was pain. Something wet dripping down my face. I came to halfway inside a metal drawer. The kind they put dead people in.
Jesus, he's awake.
I blinked, groggy as hell, as some poor bastard in scrubs stumbled backward, dropping a clipboard. A second later, a uniformed cop appeared, hand hovering over his gun.
Who the fuck are you?
He demanded. I groaned, spat out blood, and grinned. Who the fuck do I look like? They pulled me out of the drawer, still half-cooked from the explosion, and dumped me onto a cold slab. Turns out they found me in the wreckage of that basement. 2 bodies missing, the centipede face and the latchling. Whole building condemned. Structural damage, toxic air, you name it. Me? Marked as a John Doe because I didn't have my ID on me. Which meant I had a problem. Not because of my lack of identification, but because if those things survived, and I knew they fucking did, they'd be coming for me. 2 hours later, they let me sit in a shitty waiting room, wrapped in burn bandages, sipping the world's worst hospital coffee. That's when the suit walked in. No name, no badge, no need for one.
Lockjaw.
Fancy meeting you here. He sat down, pulled out a folder, slid a photo across the table. I looked, and my stomach dropped. The stitched man. Sykes moved the high-definition picture closer to me. A man, metal wire running through his skin, holding his body to the chair, eyes bulging, frozen in a death scream. Well, almost. His jaw? Wired shut. I knew that room. I'd been in a similar one. Detroit. That thing tugging at my face. I glanced back at Sykes. Where did you get this? He tapped the folder.
A rundown motel in the next city over 2 weeks ago.
I looked up, he leaned in.
Let Team 2 take care of the latching. Just send your briefing.
I nodded. That reminds me. It wasn't just the latchling. It was with a centipede fuckface. As in, it had a lot of fucking faces. Sykes furrowed his eyebrows. These guys usually fly solo, and I saw him note how strange that was.
I'll look into it. Now are you in?
I looked down at my burned hands, felt the old wire scars along my jaw, and then I grinned. I downed the rest of the shitty coffee, shoved the folder aside, and said, "Tell me where to start." Sykes was some colonel in his old life. He's the one who came to me after my encounter with the stitched man and taught me the ropes. See, at one time in my life I would have thought he was crazy. But I sat there after my first training session listening to his stories. Cryptids, demons, folklore, which I had thought was bullshit up until I was proved wrong. Every boogeyman you ever heard of. Every weird-ass Reddit thread about some guy's cousin's friend seeing something in the woods. Real. And the government? Oh, they knew all about it. Enter the Vault, a Texas-sized underground prison where captured horrors, myths, and urban legends were locked up, studied, and contained. The problem? Every once in a while, shit got out. That's where I came in. Now this job, it does have perks. Exhibit A, healing serums. Some nasty bioexperiment shit that let me recover faster, take more damage, and keep going when most people would be paced. Only problem? It didn't work on past injuries, which meant my jaw and old scars. Permanent. But a handy side effect was I became stronger than I used to be. It also came with a cleanup crew. Anytime a scene got too messy or too loud, guess what? Nobody will hear about it. News gets rewritten, reports get buried, and anyone who asks too many questions gets redirected. But my favorite part are the specialized weapons. I mean, sure, I carry my trusty shotgun. That's mostly to blow off limbs or punch giant holes in these things to slow them down. You ever try taking down a Wendigo with a regular shotgun? Yeah, good luck. Turns out, depending on what the hell you're fighting, you need some real creative shit, like bullets shined with holy oil, chains lined with silver, syringes filled with all sorts of goodies, or an EMP stake that fries anything with an extra-dimensional nervous system. Now, there are a couple of rules of engagement. Rule number 1, capture first. If it moves, breathes, and doesn't immediately rip your face off, bag it and send it to the vault for study. Rule number 2, kill anything that doesn't fit into rule number 1. If it starts getting too close to civilians, or if the thing's too unstable to contain, well, we put it down. My first assignment had it all. Guess it was Sykes' way of testing me. A skinwalker. Somewhere out in the Arizona desert near a Navajo reservation, locals started going missing. Only thing left behind? Tracks that didn't match any known animal. Now, I'd heard about skinwalkers before. I mean, who hadn't? I got there to 5 bodies, torn apart like paper dolls. 1 survivor, barely. Skin stripped, eyes missing, voice completely gone. I tracked the thing to an abandoned trading post. Middle of the night, stars out, wind howling like some pissed-off spirit. Then, it called my name. Not in some growly horror movie voice either. In my own fucking voice. Lockjaw. It was mimicking me. At first I was startled, but it seems a lot of these things have some sort of magic 8-ball in their pocket where they know something about you. Or maybe they have their own underground social media where they post about us. Who knows? Who cares? I pulled my shotgun, the buckshot already coated in white ash made of bone, stepped through the door, and something rushed me from the shadows, fast, a blur of teeth, claws, and eyes that weren't human anymore. I fired, missed, fired again. Something slammed into my ribs. I hit the ground hard, air knocked out of me, the smell of rot and blood clogging my nose. Then the thing leaned in, close enough that I could see its split, cracked lips and the twisted human teeth behind them. Then, it smiled. I won't lie, for a second, I thought I was done. But here's the thing about me. I don't scare easy. And when something tries to eat my face, I get real fucking angry. I yanked my knife from my belt, plunged it into its gut, twisted. The thing screeched and flung itself back. I grabbed my shotgun that had clattered on the ground. Boom! It hit the thing's shoulder, sent it spinning, bleeding thick black sludge. These things always seem to leak. It tried to run. Too bad. I tackled it face first into the dirt, pinned it with my knee, and jammed a syringe full of paralytic serum into its neck. 30 seconds later, the thing seized up, went still. And just like that, I had my first catch. Couple days later, I got to see where these things actually go. They called it the vault. Now I have no idea what it looks like from the outside. I was blindfolded, and I know we walked down below the surface to get inside. It was an entire underground ecosystem, a labyrinth of containment units, research stations, and cells big enough to hold entire fucking towns. And the things inside? Worse than I ever imagined.
You did good. You're gonna fit right in here.
I stared through the observation glass, watching the skinwalker thrash against the steel restraints. It looked at me, smiled that not quite human smile, and whispered something I'll never forget.
You have no idea what's coming.
That was the first time I ever felt something like fear, and I embraced it. Fear helped keep you alive. I touched down in Rockford around 7. Intel had gotten a lead. It was nothing more than a grainy black and white image from a surveillance cam purely by accident. PD was trying to bust a drug deal when they caught something happening in the background. A form hunched over what looked like a body down an alley. One instant it was there, and a frame later, gone. But it was enough for me. About 40 minutes later, I was standing in that same alley. Then I made my way inside the abandoned building. I smelled the blood before I saw her. The room was dim, lit by the flickering neon outside, casting sickly Kodachrome colors through the broken blinds. I stepped in slow, boots pressing into something wet, sticky. The stench of copper and sweet rot intensified, my gut clenched. Then I saw her. She wasn't just tied to the chair. She was part of it. Her arms, her thighs, her sides, all stitched, threading her into the old fabric like some sick taxidermy project. Thick, rusted wire strands looped through her skin, pulling it taut, embedding it deep. Skin puckered around the metal, twisted into jagged knots where flesh had tried, and failed, to heal. Blood, dark and syrup-thick, dripped in slow, lazy streams onto the floor. She wasn't moving. Her head lolled forward, a curtain of dark hair masking her face. "Shit," I muttered, stepping closer. And I just knew once I got to her face, I'd see her jaw wired shut. Then I felt it. That itch at the base of my skull. That creeping, rotten awareness. I wasn't alone.
That's my artwork you're gawking at.
A voice slithered out from the shadows, low and giddy.
Beautiful, isn't she?
I turned, gun up, and there he was. The stitched man. He stood just outside the light's reach, his silhouette jagged and lank, a patchwork of skin stretched too tight, as if some drunk god had stitched him together from the remnants of the dead. The rest of his face was a nightmare of uneven stitches and mismatched skin. His lips were pulled into a perpetual grin, threads knotting the corners of his mouth into something that was supposed to be human, but sure as hell wasn't. His fingers twitched. Silver wire danced between them.
Don't worry,
he said, voice wet and amused.
She's not dead. Yet.
I didn't wait. My gun barked twice. Center mass. He twisted, moved like a marionette on invisible strings, bones popping as he skittered backward into the shadows. Fuck. I took another step forward, keeping my aim steady, waiting for that bastard to jump back out. He chuckled.
Oh, Lockjaw. You should know by now. It's never that simple.
Then he was gone. I turned back to the girl. She wasn't screaming, wasn't crying, just sitting with her head hanging. "This is gonna hurt," I muttered, pressing the small wire cutters I brought with me to the first wire. She didn't make a sound. I cut. She jerked, a wet gasp rattling out of her throat as the wire ripped free from her arm. Muscle peeled away in strips, skin curling like old paper. My stomach rolled, but I kept going. One by one, the wires snapped. Then her head lolled back. Her body went slack, gone, dead. Shit. I knelt, pressed 2 fingers to her throat. Nothing. I sighed. At least he didn't get a chance to get to your face. I wasn't about to leave his latest victim like this. Grimacing, I brought my wire cutters back up to finish the job. Another failure. Another goddamn... Her body jerked violently. I stumbled back, gun drawn, and then she moved. Not in a slow, zombie corpse way. She launched forward like she'd been yanked by an invisible chain, gasping as the wire thread snapped, eyes burning with something definitely not human. I don't scare easy. But I'd be lying if I said I didn't damn near shit myself when she lunged at me. My knife was in my hand before I even thought to grab it, and I swung. She caught my wrist midair with inhuman speed. I twisted, aiming a kick to her gut. She vanished. Literally. Fucking vanished. A second later, a whisper ghosted past my ear.
"You're lucky I don't hold grudges."
I turned fast. She was standing behind me, fully unbound, stretching like she'd just woken up from a nap instead of, fucking dying. I aimed my gun. "What the fuck are you?" She smiled. Neon green eyes locked onto mine. Sharp. Knowing. Her head tilted.
I thought you were smarter than that.
And that's when it clicked. I'd seen this before. Those neon green eyes. Not in the field, not in the vault, but in the classified files that I wasn't supposed to read. Because if you're going to be a general nuisance, you better do a damn good job at it. It was codename Hex. Witches weren't just folklore. Most of the ones left hid themselves well, blending into modern society. But some were very powerful and could cause real havoc. I'm betting she was the latter. She stiffened.
Shit, he's coming back.
I flicked the safety off my gun. Good. Maybe this time I can actually put the bastard down. Her expression darkened. Then in a flash, she grabbed my wrist, the one holding my gun. Her grip was iron, fingers like cold steel around my wrist, those neon green eyes burning through me. I didn't like that. I wrenched my hand free, my instinct screaming at me to put 2 in her skull and call it a night. But I didn't. Maybe because I'd never seen a dead person just wake up and start talking shit. She rolled her shoulders, wincing as fresh blood dripped down her arms.
Jeez, you're a rough surgeon, you know that?
"You're welcome," I muttered. She ignored me, flexing her fingers. I watched as eerie shifting tattoos appeared, coiled and pulsing across her skin, green and purple symbols twisting like living things making themselves known. They looked old, older than language. "All right, sweetheart. Start talking. Who the hell are you?" She smirked, wiping blood from her mouth with the back of her hand.
You should be thanking me. I used myself as bait to get to you.
She said, her voice still carrying that unnerving amusement. "The fuck did you just say?"
I needed to find you, but certain people were tight-lipped about your whereabouts, so this was the only choice I had.
She folded her arms, wincing as the motion pulled at the raw wounds in her sides.
Didn't expect you to be so pretty in person, though.
Cut the shit. You let that patchwork freak sew you to a chair just to get my attention? You got a real fucked up way of flirting. Sable grinned.
Flattered. But no, the stitched man doesn't know I'm not just some random woman. I disguised myself, masked my aura, and then I did what his urban legend says not to do.
Which is,
I asked him his real name.
every urban legend's got its own rules. Break them and you're either dead, or you become part of their story. And I pressed. Sable licked her lips, eyes darting to the darkened corners of the room.
And we don't have much time before he comes back to finish what he started.
She wasn't wrong. A low, wet creak groaned through the walls. The room suddenly felt smaller, the air thickening with that same sick, rotting awareness.
Time to go. I know a way out.
I followed her out a door, but I wasn't leaving. Sable knew it the second I turned toward the alley instead of away from it.
Lockjaw.
No, I cut her off. That stitched bastard is still out there. I don't run. Her neon green eyes flickered under the dim light, her expression unreadable. Those shifting tattoos on her arms writhed like they had a mind of their own. My hand was already reaching for my gun, but that wasn't what I wanted. I wanted to tear the stitched man apart, to put an end to whatever he was. Sable stepped in front of me.
You want to kill him? I get it, but you're missing the bigger picture.
The bigger picture is that if I don't put him down now, he'll keep adding to his little collection of bodies.
Relax, tough guy. I don't know if you remember, but I went through some shit back there. How about you take some time out of your busy fucking schedule to listen to me for a fucking minute? The bigger picture is that you are too damn busy fighting mid-level urban legends to ask why the hell they exist in the first place.
I just looked at her. She tilted her head, watching me closely.
You ever wonder why you don't hesitate? Why fear doesn't sit the same in you as it does in other people?
I don't have time for fear.
Please tell me you're not that stupid. You can recognize it. You know what it is. But that's as far as it goes. It never sticks, does it? It never gets past the door before it turns to something else.
Anger. That's what she meant. Fear never held on to me, never froze me up, never made me doubt. It hit, then burned away, replaced by something sharp, something hot, something like rage, and I used it. Every damn time. Sable crossed her arms, lowering her voice.
You think that's normal? Urban legends feed off fear, Lockjaw. They thrive on it. They build their shitty existence around it. But you? You don't give them what they need. That's why you survived Detroit.
My pulse pounded in my ears. I wanted to argue, to tell her she was talking in circles. But the way she was looking at me, like she knew something I didn't, made me pause. Finally, she sighed.
Look, I know you want the stitched man dead. I do too. But if you charge in now, fists up, teeth bared, you're walking into his game, his arena.
Her neon green eyes cut through the night like embers, those shifting green and purple tattoos moving across her arms, crawling like sentient ink. And that kind of made me feel like shit. I mean, she was still bleeding. She sighed, rubbing the back of her neck.
Look, I could sit here and give you the long version, but we don't have time for that. We need to keep moving.
She glanced back at the alley. I kept an eye on her as we walked, my instincts still chewing at me. She played it cool, but her movements were too careful, like she was hiding pain. The wounds were better than what they should have been, but hadn't healed completely yet. Which meant whatever magic she had, it wasn't instant fix bullshit. The city's underbelly had a heartbeat of its own. The hum of neon, the distant bass from clubs, the occasional shout of some poor bastard picking the wrong fight. I could feel it now, though. Something trailing us. Every urban legend has a certain resonance, a frequency. Once you've hunted them long enough, you start to recognize the signature they leave behind. The stitched man's presence was like the pull of tight threads across raw skin, a constant gnawing pressure in the back of my skull. He was close.
Here.
Sable grabbed my arm and yanked me into a side entrance of an old parking garage. She pressed a hand to the wall, and I felt it, like a pressure in front of me.
Magic,
she said, wiggling her eyebrows. I just frowned at her. A ripple of energy surged out from her palm, sending a faint green glow skittering across the concrete like veins of light. The sound outside, muted. It was like someone pressed the off button. A ward? I raised a brow. Sable grinned, breathless.
I prefer offense. But sometimes a girl's gotta buy herself some time with a little defense.
I watched her carefully. She was still bleeding, but just a little. Still human enough to feel pain. Whatever she was, whatever power she had, it wasn't invincible. Good to know. I leaned against the wall, crossing my arms. All right, talk to me, strange lady. Sable stopped. She turned slow, her neon green gaze flickering under the streetlight.
You ever wonder why you ended up where you are? Why people like us end up here?
I frowned. People like us?
You think you just stumbled into this life? That what happened to you in Detroit was random?
The itching ghost of pain crawled through my bones, the memory of steel wire pulling my mouth shut, drowning in blood, drowning in the thing's laughter. I shoved it down. Yeah, shit luck. Sable exhaled through her nose. Her tattoos shifted, symbols bleeding into new ones.
This life doesn't happen to just anyone. Look, I don't expect you to believe me yet. But what I said is true. Your past, your survival. This isn't random. And whatever you think you know about these things we hunt, it's just the surface.
I didn't like the way that felt. Like something worse was waiting beneath it all. Like I'd spent years of my life fighting the wrong thing. I gritted my teeth. And what? You want me to sit this one out because there's something bigger out there?
I want you to stop acting like a hammer when we might need a scalpel. Urban legends didn't just crawl out of the dark one day and start whispering their own names into existence. They came from somewhere.
The word settled into my chest like a slow, twisting blade. And you think you know what that something is?
I have a damn good idea of where to start. And now I have the man who can help with that.
The alley behind us felt heavier now. The pressure in the air. The telltale sign that something was still watching. Waiting. I hated it. Hated feeling like I was walking away. But for the first time in a long time, I had to wonder. Had I been too focused on hunting the beast to see the hand that let them loose? Sable watched the realization settle in, then nodded toward the garage exit. I let out a slow breath. Then I holstered my gun and followed. For now. But the stitched man wasn't getting away clean. Not a fucking chance. Sable walked ahead, her boots crunching against the cracked pavement, the glow of streetlights flickering. I followed, my mind chewing on everything she'd just thrown at me. Which honestly, was about the fifth weirdest thing I'd dealt with in my life. But still, some shit needed answers. And since I was a sucker for random factoids, I picked up my pace until I was walking beside her. All right, my turn. First question. Do all witches have those neon green eyes? Or is that just your thing? Sable smirked, her eyes catching the glow of a passing sign like a cat's.
All witches have them, if they let you see.
I frowned. Meaning?
Meaning, we don't exactly walk around flashing our true selves. You'd be surprised how well glamours work when people already see what they expect.
I let that sit for a second. Is that why witches are green in folklore? She chuckled.
More or less. Humans always knew witches had existed, and it seems perception got warped over time. Going from green eyes to green skin. Fairy tales turned us into wart-nosed hags with poisoned apples. Easier to hate something when it looks monstrous.
She shrugged. I glanced at her, taking in the sleek hair, the leather and ink, the way she moved like a predator in plain sight. So, what do people see when they look at you? She arched a brow.
Whatever makes them comfortable.
Well, that was unsettling as hell. But before I could push that further, something else gnawed at my brain. I motioned at her arm. All right, next question. Why the fuck are your tattoos moving? She laughed, like she'd been waiting for that one. I watched as a skull twisted into a thorned rose, then unraveled back into ink. Sable lifted her arm, and the ink swam under her skin, flickering between symbols I didn't recognize.
They're not tattoos. Not in the way you're thinking. It's part of my magic, my past, my protection. It's a living thing, tied to me.
Creepy as hell.
Coming from a guy called Lockjaw?
Fair. We walked in silence for a few beats. The city stretched ahead, dark and restless, and I had the creeping feeling we were walking toward something I wasn't gonna like. "So," I said finally, "where exactly are we headed?" Sable didn't hesitate.
The vault.
I stopped. "What?" She turned, her expression unreadable. I shook my head. "You want to break into an off-the-books sanctioned monster-filled hellhole?"
It's not a break-in if you know a guy who can get in.
I folded my arms. "And where exactly is this vault?"
Well, I'm not exactly 100% certain, but good news is I know a guy.
I narrowed my eyes. "And how do you know about it?"
Because I used to be on the books just like you.
"Bullshit," Sable smirked.
Oh, absolutely, but true.
I tried to picture her in my position, taking orders, tracking down monsters, cleaning up messes. I couldn't see it. She read my expression and laughed.
I wasn't exactly a rule follower.
"No shit."
I learned I wasn't exactly given the whole picture, so I left.
"People don't just leave the agency." Her smile was razor sharp.
Actually, they do. Think about it. Think about all the tabloids you've seen over the years. The online stories. The people who were written off as crazy, or more times than not just ignored. That's why we never see the whole picture. We really can't damage anything that people do not believe exists, you know. Besides, the agency, even though we had our differences, is not in the business of getting rid of people. But it's not like I don't know what they have at their disposal, so I keep my mouth shut, and here we are.
I exhaled sharply, rubbing a hand over my face. "You don't know where the vault is, but you want to get inside it." I let out a short laugh. "That's a hell of a plan." She smirked.
Figured you'd like it.
I shook my head. "Fine. But if you wanted to find me to get me to take you to it, you're shit out of luck, lady. Because the only time I've been there, I wasn't seeing shit. Blindfolded," I said, lighting a cigarette. "Didn't see a thing until I was already inside." Sable nodded, thinking, calculating.
Then, we start with someone who does know.
We walked in silence for a few minutes, the streetlights throwing long shadows over the cracked pavement. The night air was thick with the scent of rain and asphalt, but my mind was on something else. I glanced over at Sable. "So, here's a thought. Why don't you just use your witchy powers to find the vault?" She snorted.
You think I haven't tried?
I raised a brow. "And?"
And there are other witches, and other things working to keep that place hidden. I don't have the kind of juice to crack that nut.
That pulled me up short. I'd always known the vault was locked down tighter than a miser's safe, but the idea of witches protecting it? That was new. Or maybe not, considering the things inside. We rounded a corner, and that's when I saw it. Sable's car, and immediately I hated it. It was a tiny two-door shitbox, barely bigger than a shopping cart. The worst part? It was covered in cutesy-ass animal stickers. I mean, I'm man enough to admit they were cute. But when I say covered, I mean, I couldn't even tell what color the car was. I stared at it, then at her, then back at the car. "Oh," I said flatly. "That's just embarrassing." Sable let out a mock gasp, clutching her chest like I'd just insulted her lineage.
Excuse you? This baby gets great gas mileage.
I dragged a hand down my face. "I'm convinced you got fired from the agency because of this car." She grinned.
I'd like to think it played a part.
I sighed, flicked my cigarette away, and pulled open the door. "I swear, if I have to fold my whole body in half just to squeeze into this thing, don't you get mad if I fart." But the second I sat down, my whole perception shifted. The inside of the car was nothing like the outside. I wasn't crammed into some tiny excuse for a vehicle. Instead, I was suddenly sitting in what felt like a luxury SUV. Wide leather seats, plenty of legroom, ambient lighting. It even smelled expensive. I blinked. Sable slid into the driver's seat, smirked at my expression, and wiggled her eyebrows.
Magic.
I shook my head. "You are a deeply chaotic individual."
Thank you. Now buckle up, Lockjaw. We're going to Sykes' place.
She started the engine, which purred like a beast. I exhaled. Of course she knows Sykes. "Great," I muttered. That bastard owes me a drink. Sable grinned and gunned it down the street. The road stretched ahead, a black ribbon cutting through the night.
Thanks for listening to part 1 of Lockjaw. Part 2 will be posted soon. On second thought. Depending on when you're listening, it might already be out, in which case, check out my playlist. Well, until next time.